Welcome, insiders and Digital Marketer Lab members, to your insider training, also known to some as office hours. I'm Maya Hughley for the first time ever on video. This is what I look like. I'm the content coordinator here in production, and I'll be your host. We're also joined by our community manager, Michelle Dalton. She's in the chat, making sure your questions are heard. And we also have Jenna helping with our speakers today. Jenna used to be the host of Digital Marketers Insider Training and Office Hours, and now it's me. So I'm happy to have Jenna here helping out. If you're brand new to Office Hours / Insider Training, we cover a variety of specific marketing strategies with new expert guests. Sometimes they're live, like today, and sometimes they're not, but they're always recorded. And if you're a paying lab member or an insider, that recording will be inside of your lab platform under the Insider Training tab within 24 hours. But of course, attending live gets you the added benefit of getting your question answered live by our guest. This week, we have a very special training. I'll be interviewing founders and entrepreneurs that have found amazing ways to pivot their businesses during a global crisis. Each interview will be just a few minutes with time for one or two questions at the end. So please put your questions in the chat as you think of them so Michelle can get them to me. It looks like I may not be on camera right now. So let me fix that so you guys can see me. Let's see. All right. Can everyone see me? I think. Put it in the chat if you can. Oh, perfect. I was already on camera. Thank you, Robert. I appreciate that. So we're going to go ahead and jump in here with some of these interviews. I'm sure you guys are so excited to hear and get some new strategies for your businesses as well. You know, we're all going through this really strange time, and these people that we're going to be interviewing have gotten really creative with how they're doing their business. So first up, we have Abigail Gilman from Wantable, as well as Tiffany Cooley. Thank you guys so much for being here. Wantable is doing amazing things. You guys work for a company that does personal selling, is that right? Personal shopping and styling, and are now making masks and delivering masks. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, Wantable is hi guys, I'm Tiffany Cooley, the Chief Marketing Officer at Wantable. Wantable is a try before you buy personal styling company. We service primarily a women demographic, but we also have a men's edit. And we pivoted our business pretty quickly after hearing everything that's been going on in the world and in the country with COVID-19. And our platform really lended itself to like a really easy solution for us to be able to crowdsource customers who are able to sell, customers or people who just wanted to help and chip in. Sew and make masks. We have a great proprietary shipping platform that then could like take in those shipments and then reship them out and distribute them to healthcare workers and medical
Absolutely.
people on the front lines. So it's been a
That's
really successful campaign.
wonderful. Absolutely. I mean, that's amazing to hear. You're doing such a wonderful thing, and I'm sure everyone on the front line super appreciates it. Before all of this, before the global pandemic, how are you normally conducting business? I imagine doing drop shipping for frontline medical personnel was not in the business plan at all.
No, I mean, we ran probably very similar to a lot of traditional e-com players or other people in our space. We have a warehouse located in Milwaukee. We were working primarily one large shift, mostly Monday through Friday. Some things that we did to pivot to protect our employees really was to break those shifts into multiple and throughout the weekends, just to limit the contact that people would have with each other. And then we separated some of the workflows that came from customers and separated that from how we're handling the So Good campaign with the masks and so forth. So the good news is we actually were able to leverage a lot of the same technology and tools that we had as we made that change and added that
Absolutely.
mask piece to our business. So we hadn't had to change a lot there. There's honestly been a lot more change on the other operational teams within the organization. So, you know, our photo team, for example, since we're talking to a group of marketers here on the call, that's been a really big shift for us. We were in studio shooting product on models, touching product with our merchant teams, and having that hands-on experience. So
Hmm.
pivoting that digitally has been one of the largest changes among many.
Right.
So on that point, we're leaning into a lot of organic and UGC content right now.
That makes
I
sense. That
would
makes a
just
lot of sense. Yeah, go
layer
ahead.
on to exactly what Tiffany was saying, and I think many people can relate to this in the marketing space, but we plan quite a bit out and have strategies in place for what we're going to be doing months and quarters in advance. And it's sort of hard to say, all right, we're going to put all of that on the back burner and maybe hopefully we'll get to it someday, but we're going to have to shift
Right.
all of our gears and be really graceful in the content that we share right now, and sort of be a little bit more lenient about the aesthetic that we have, and be scrappy and resourceful in the way that we're um, sourcing and sharing images. And it's actually been a lot of fun to collaborate cross-functionally with different teams and find ways to come up with content, from our home offices.
Absolutely. That's so good to hear. I'm sure a lot of our audience is feeling the same thing. I know digital marketers feeling the same thing. We have a video team trying to make videos without access to people, which is difficult.
Yeah.
So have you found that some of your new strategies have been successful? And is there anything that you think you're going to continue doing in the future because of this?
I just say that we started, so pre-COVID, I think is becoming a time period.
Right.
Um, So pre-COVID, we had started working on the next evolution of our brand. I mean, we're about 7 years old, so we've been kind of operating with the same foundation for our brand for a while. We really wanted to hone in on why we exist for customers and kind of go back to roots with our brand purpose. This was all pre everything happening. What we've found and what I think has been really successful for us is just leaning faster and more deliberately into that messaging now, to go back to our company's true roots, to the core
Absolutely.
values, simplify. There's a lot of things, to Abby's point, that we've had in the works and on the table, but I think just trying to go back to your core business, your core values, all the reasons why your customers come to you and love you has been um, extremely helpful. And then also just like Abby said, there's a lot of grace that we have in our messaging and our photography, how we handle employees in the company and so forth. Leaning into the times with empathy and kindness, and also knowing that every single employee and that we have behind the other screen as we're working through this time period has something going on. The same holds true for our customers. So we've really made sure that we've embraced every individual customer, every individual employee, knowing that there's like something unique going on with them about their situation, and just flexing our business model with all the tools we have to help people in the best way possible.
Absolutely. I think that makes so much sense. And I find that a lot of people are using this time to kind of reconnect with what they meant to be doing in the beginning. It's a great time to sort of do that. So we have one more interview question before we open it up to the chat. So our last question is, what are some of the first steps you would recommend to a similar business, or maybe a business that's just kind of taking off, if they want to pivot their business in a similar way?
Yeah, I think that I'll take a couple, and then Abby, I know you've got a ton of really great thoughts on this topic as well. Like going back to what we said, just to reiterate that, like really focusing on your original brand purpose and simplifying. Also, just kind of treating our employees well. I can speak from the executive leadership team level. We went into this knowing that we were going to have to cut for a period of time, and we actually even shut down proactively to protect our employees for a week or so. Just
Absolutely.
knowing that we value our employees and their safety and health above all. So leaning into making sure that we've got everything set up for our employees to be successful, but also safe, it was important to us. We were able to pivot some of the roles that maybe would have less work as we slowed our operations down for a little bit, cross-utilize, cross-train them in other areas. They got this really cool learning experience. But we were able to make a bunch of changes as we downshifted our revenue without laying anyone off and without having to furlough anyone, just by being creative. And
That's
huge
amazing.
shout out to our teams. They've been incredibly resilient and flexible and nimble throughout this process.
That's spectacular.
One tip that I would have is to mute when your neighbor's dog is barking.
We
And
appreciate
also,
that. That's a great tip.
I just keep reminding myself that we are humans serving humans. Like we are all just working with the best that we have to provide the best service and experience to the customers that we're serving, and just keeping close connections with all of the cross-functional teams. I think it's been a really unique and interesting experience trying to collaborate together to hear all of the customer stories, whether they're about our So Good campaign, sourcing masks and truly making a difference in our community and across the country, as well as just the response from some of our customers, you know, how they're being impacted and how we can use this experience just to create a real strong loyalty with them, and, you know, make sure that they understand we're here for them too.
That's beautiful. Humans working with humans is, the core of it all. I really, really like that. Um, absolutely. Let me see if we have any questions from our Q&A. And it doesn't look like we have any additional questions for you, but if someone has a question that they're holding on to or they want to find out more about Wantable, where should we send them to?
You could send them to either of our email addresses. I think they're in the meeting guide. Otherwise, we could type them in the chat if that helps as well.
Absolutely. So we have Abigail at abigail.gilman@wantable.com, and Tiffany is tiffany.cooley@wantable.com. And if you just want more information about Wantable and you want to support their cause of getting masks to frontline workers, you can visit them at wantable.com. Thank you guys so much for being here. That was so great.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much, Maya.
Absolutely. So next up, we have Alyssa Duson. Alyssa Duson is a dietitian who works in the Austin area, and she has had to pivot her entire business to being online, which, as you know, if you've ever been to a dietitian, that's normally like an in-office personal experience. So that's been a huge transition for her, and I'm really excited to hear from her about the changes that she had to make and some of the things that she had to do to make that happen and to make that work for her. So let's get her in here. 1 second. There we go. How's it going, Alyssa? Can you hear me? Oh, and I don't think I can hear you. Oh, maybe now I can.
How about now?
Yes, perfect. How are you
Yay, good.
doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for your
Good.
time. I really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Absolutely. So, first question, before all COVID-19, before this pandemic, how were you normally conducting your business?
Right. So I have an office in right outside of Austin, Texas, and so almost 100% of my clients, it was just one-on-one meetings in our office. It's super cozy and personal, so I really enjoyed that one-on-one interaction with them and getting to sit and really do hands-on things with them. We also cook sometimes too together,
Oh, wow.
so lots of in-person stuff before COVID-19. I did always have a telehealth option as a backup. I always viewed it as kind of like a last resort. If someone just couldn't make it, or kids were homesick from school or something like that. So I had that in my back pocket, but never kind of saw it as a primary way to go about business.
Gotcha. So what exactly are you doing now that none of that can happen?
Right. So we had I made a quick switch over to telehealth only. I was really grateful that I do have an EHR, an electronic health record that allows for HIPAA compliant telehealth. So I had that set up. I immediately, when we had stay-at-home orders, just sent out a message to all my clients and said, good news, we can continue business. We'll be meeting online from here on out. Here's your instructions for your next appointment. Just tried to be really positive and shift my mindset of seeing it as a backup or a last resort as something that could be a really effective tool for my clients that we didn't have to, completely slip off in this time. So
Absolutely.
yeah, we just switched really quick over to telehealth. I did my best to just kind of word it as, this is great. We're so lucky we can keep going
Absolutely.
and forward that way. Yeah.
What was the client response to that like? I'm sure they were all experiencing, the same stay-at-home order, but did you get any pushback or any really positive reactions to going fully online?
Yeah, I would say about 75% was just fine with the transition, ready to go. I did get some pushback, people that are less comfortable with technology, don't like the idea of doing things over a screen. So I definitely have had some pushback. There has been a suspension in the requirement for these platforms to be HIPAA compliant for a season, which
Got
has
it.
allowed me to transition some people over. So being able to use something as long as they're aware that it's not a secure platform like FaceTime or something in that first
Mhm.
session with always the goal of going to a more secure platform has been a nice thing to do for people that aren't as used to it. I've had a few, just a very small percentage of clients that were very nervous about it. And one in particular didn't think she wanted to do it. I kind of said, let's hang in there and try one. And she was so excited afterwards because she realized if she could do that, she could do her meetings with me over lunch at work in the future,
Mm-hmm.
take off a half day to come see me. And so she actually switched in the course of the one meeting to, I just want to do this from now on. Like, this is so much more convenient. So that was kind of a nice surprise to see some people really finding it better. And I think in the long run, the force to do it well and for me to learn telehealth really well will be an added benefit for clients in the future. And for me to not just see it as this last case scenario, but something I can actually offer as another service in the future. It's kind
Absolutely.
of forced me out of my comfort zone that way.
Yeah, that was actually leading right into my next question was, is there any facets of it
Mhm.
that you think you're going to continue doing after the pandemic? But it sounds like you've learned a lot of new things you can kind of carry on as a part of your business even after the stay at home is lifted.
Right. So I think that there's just definitely some skills that I've learned. I have a lot of teenager clients, and so having to really brainstorm with other people who work in telehealth and other dietitians and getting their advice on how to keep, especially younger clients, engaged over a screen for
Mm,
that time has been a challenge, but I've learned a lot with that way. It's also really forced me to learn telehealth laws and insurance
absolutely.
compliance with it, all of those things better. So it's kind of been a forced growth for me that I think will benefit the practice in the future.
That makes a lot of sense. That is spectacular. Everyone's learning so much about how
Mhm.
their business runs and the kind of things that they can do to make it better in general.
Right.
So last question here is, what
Mhm.
are some of the first steps you might recommend to someone in a similar industry or someone that is used to meeting with clients one-on-one if they want to make an online pivot?
Right. So something that's been invaluable for me has been some private Facebook groups that I'm a part of that are specific to dietitians in private practice as places to really brainstorm these things. And so I've been so grateful for people that are business coaches in this area or other people where we can really brainstorm together. Hey, this isn't working for me. What works for you? We also specifically in one of the groups I have for insurance for dietitians in private practice, a spreadsheet that we've all shared where we put in information for different insurance companies, what codes are working, things like that. So I would say to network, to
Hmm.
find those places, hire a business coach that's been there, and don't try to do it on your own because the resource of people that are ahead of me that understand these things more and being able to ask questions and really share so that we all kind of rise together in this situation has been invaluable for me.
Absolutely. That's amazing advice. That makes a lot of sense to me to network with your peers and make sure
Hmm.
you're supporting other people in your industry.
Right.
If people are looking to get in touch with you, ask you some questions, or just find out more about your business, your website
Mhm.
is alyssaduson.com, correct?
Yep. And they can send me a
Absolutely.
message from there.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here, Alyssa. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right, so next up we have, let's see here. Gotta get my list in front of me. Justin. Hi, Justin.
Hello.
How's
Look
it
at me.
going?
I'm right on
How are you
time.
doing? You are indeed.
I'm
So we
good.
can go ahead. We can go ahead and hop into some questions here if you're good.
Sure.
Absolutely. So first of all, before all of everything that's going on, how did familiar creatures usually go about doing their business?
We went about doing our business by establishing relationships with brands we were interested in through our own connections or through connections of connections, if that makes sense. And then if they had a need and the timing was right, we would initiate a contract and do work for them, starting with strategy, going into what we call ad-like objects, and then doing the work that you will actually see out in the world. And then we'd actually get a production company to shoot and direct it, edit it, all those good things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sorry, I realized I skipped a step here. You work for Familiar Creatures, which is an ad agency based in Richmond,
Mm-hmm.
Virginia, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, there we go. Perfect. So the reason that we reached out to talk to you is because we saw that you guys had made a website specifically for Richmond, helping small businesses and restaurants just kind of get their name out there, their delivery options, their curbside options. So can you tell me a little bit more about how you're doing business now?
How we're doing business now is thinking a little bit more proactively, and how should I say it? Being a lot more responsive to the COVID situation and the fact that brands are now kind of in a moment of crisis. And so being a little bit less cold call-y and
Mm,
sales focused, and being a lot more respectful of the moment and only approaching brands if we really are super close to them relationally wise. And and on the flip side of that, doing work that gets out in the market, like our website, Keep Calm and Nom Nom. And we have some other things in the works too, that's just proving out our expertise and our quality and just building a groundswell through that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was sort of the decision-making process like for making your pivot? Was it just like a lot of meetings talking about what's next, or how did that go?
It was, so we're a small agency. We're 4 people strong, and we're in a cool area in Richmond called Scott's Addition that's been growing and blowing up with breweries, hipster food places, restaurants, grocery stores and stuff. And we just thought, this is like March 14th or 15th. We're down in Virginia where COVID kept hitting the north, the west, and then it started going south.
Got it.
So it started becoming like real for us, like mid-March. And so we just were like, hey, you know what? All these places, what the heck's going to happen to them? And we just started thinking quickly on the spot. It's how we do everything. We think about something and then we just do it. And so we thought, how can we help these restaurants and these breweries? What's a good URL? We thought of a few. Keep Calm and Nom Nom stuck, and it was luckily available.
For good reason. It's a great one.
And then we started working on it on a Friday, and over the weekend we had a half of it done, and on Monday we launched it in earnest. So that was how that happened for sure.
Absolutely. So as you've been sort of transitioning and finding new ways to get business and things like that, have you had success with anything, any new strategies that you think you're going to continue to do even after the pandemic is over?
Yeah, I think that we're still assessing the damage of the pending economic downturn.
Right.
And our value proposition, if I could put it that way, has always been that we bring you big agency experience and expertise, but way more efficiently and not as expensive. And so that will be even more of a desire, I'm assuming, of brands moving forward. And so it's
Absolutely.
just making sure that that comes through in how we communicate ourselves on our website, which we're in the process of completely redoing, and how we talk on Instagram, how we talk on LinkedIn and such.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. So our last question here, if there's anyone with questions in the chat for Justin, let me know and I'll slip some of those in here. But our last question on our side is, we do have some members of our audience, our lab members, our certified partners who do have agencies. What are some steps or some ideas you would recommend for trying to make a pivot like this?
I would say that it's like an intrinsic thing. It's courage. You need to have courage collectively in a hive mind kind of way to pick a lane and go at it like the Juggernaut from X-Men. And try to eliminate processes and kind of old ways of coming to do business as fast as you can, and be as smart as you can about it. But like, just if it feels right, just do it. Like, and that sounds like something from like a movie from the 80s or something, but it's all about embracing kind of the challenger brand mindset, which we have. We think of ourselves as a challenger brand, even though we're an agency, and you kind of just already know like how you do things and you just do them as soon as you can. There's so much out there to be gained now with marketers pulling back and stuff. There's a captive audience waiting all day long for funny things or for a good message. So you gotta like figure out how to deliver stuff to them that will capture their attention and their eyeballs and stuff.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. And 80s movies are the truest movies. So it only makes sense to me. Thank you so much for being here, Justin. If you guys want
Sure.
to check out the website that Familiar Creatures made for Richmond, it's keepcalmandnomnom.com. If you want to check out more about Familiar Creatures, it's familiarcreatures.com. And thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. Nice to meet everybody.
Absolutely. All right. So I'm sorry, it looks like we may have gotten a little out of order there, but we're going to bring up our next guest. We're going to keep things moving because there's so much great content that I want you guys to hear about and so many great pivots that we're making. So next up, we have Jeremy Gabrish, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, from Remedy Urgent Care. Jeremy, how you doing? Oh, he was there for a second and then he disappeared on me.
Good. Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you.
Okay.
There you are. Perfect.
Good deal. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I appreciate you being here. You are kind of the man of the hour when it comes to healthcare and what is going on right now. I think everyone very much wants to hear what urgent care is doing, what ERs are doing, and the entire healthcare industry. But before the whole pandemic, how was Remedy regularly going about business?
Yeah, we're a little bit of a unique case in the sense that we have actually not changed our business model much. So we're a house call service, a virtual video visit service that we've sort of always been a big fan of doing medical care outside of the four walls of the clinic. That's kind of how we've always done it. And so if anything, the COVID-19 thing has sort of shone a light on the way we do things. Yeah, I mean, we had, at least in the Austin market, we do have one walk-in clinic, which we actually are not operating during COVID-19 and
Got
have
it.
instead pivoted to a drive-through testing facility.
Mm,
So we changed a little bit of the things that we were doing, mostly around the needs to do more high volume. So we
right.
had a lot of people who wanted to be tested for COVID, or maybe they don't think they have COVID, but maybe they want to be tested for strep or flu or something else. And so we needed a way to do a lot of that efficiently. So we have spun up drive-through locations for that reason.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. I'm thankful to that because I am in Austin. So if the time comes, I'm sure I'll be looking you guys up. As far as making this pivot, what was the decision making like? Like when you decided to close the walk-up clinic, when you decided to kind of focus on volume, was there a whole team that kind of had to deal with that?
Yeah, there was. So, fairly early on, we sort of created a COVID task force,
Mm.
and we pulled leaders from across every functional area of the company. So, we had a representative of the nursing team, we had a representative of the laboratory team, we had a rep of the just operations and person from marketing, and so we had basically like a 10-person COVID cabinet is what we called them.
I
And
love that.
and so that we started meeting regularly. Initially it was before shelter in place started, so we were meeting in
Mm.
person. Then there came the day when we said, okay guys, we got to dissolve this and do all this from home. But yeah, I mean, we had to make a decision to pivot to that. I mean, some of it had to do with PPE, and if you've been watching the news, everybody
Right.
knows PPE now, which is funny to me. But personal protective equipment, it's an acronym that we use in the medical field, and really the thoughts around how do you use it wisely.
Mm.
We have always done house calls, but the problem with house calls with PPE is you take it, you put it on, you go in the home, you come out, you take it off, you get back in the car, you have to throw it away, discard it, get in the car, and then use new PPE for each patient. And so this really
Mm.
made us go, that's not like we're not going to be able to use the limited amounts of PPE efficiently if we stick with house calls. Um,
Gotcha.
and so we are actually doing very few house calls right now. And instead, we are basically shunting all of that business to our drive-through locations.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and that way our people can sort of like they can stay gowned up and they're gowned
Mm.
up, they've got their mask and all that stuff. And then people are just coming through in their cars, rolling down their window, you do what you need to do, and then but we can conserve the amount of PPE that we use in that situation.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Have you had any difficulty dealing with like an increase in demand just in general for your services?
Yeah, I mean our volume has been up like 1,000%
Oh boy.
to last year. So we are, yeah, I mean, we're dealing with a huge surge in volume. And but one of the interesting things is that a lot of traditional brick and mortar clinics and facilities are less busy than they used to be, and some of those have
Mm-hmm.
even had to furlough some people, unfortunately. And we've been able to bring some of those people on and get them back providing frontline medical care just via video instead of the way they were doing it.
Absolutely. So one more question here, and for anyone that is in a similar industry, so we'll say the healthcare industry that is trying to figure out maybe to emulate a little bit of what you do or to maybe have an online option, what are some steps that you might recommend?
Yeah, I mean, there are some third-party softwares that you can use, to get if you want to get set up for seeing patients virtually. There are several out there that are good, and you can provide your patients with a link that they can click and then go in and be talking with you virtually. I mean, the thing that I keep coming back to is, what is the new normal going to be after this? And so I'm really encouraging medical providers to don't think about this temporary video solution as, okay, we're going to do this, and then after this is over, we're going to go back to business as usual.
Right.
A lot of patients are trying this and they really like it. I mean, they need to have their medicine refilled or they need something easy, and the doc gets on and sees them by video and gets it taken care of. And the patients are going, hey, that was pretty cool. And so I'm really advising people, like, think about how when this is over, maybe you do half of your visits virtually, and give
Yeah.
people the option. They can come in the office if they want, or they can do it like this.
Yeah. And I think that's such good advice, even for the people out there that aren't in healthcare, is to think about what the strategies they're doing now can help them in the future. Make some great decisions now that you can kind of keep doing, even after this is over.
Yeah.
That's Excellent advice. Thank you so much for being here, Jeremy. I really appreciate it. If people want to check out more about Remedy Urgent Care, the website is myremedy.com, correct?
That's correct. Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
All right. You're welcome.
All right. Y'all, I'm having a great time. This is going. I hope you're taking notes on some of the great advice we're getting. Next up, we have Doneen Sarauda from We Are Teachers. This, if you're not familiar, is a website for teachers that really helps provide resources. And now they're helping teachers do with resources for teaching online, which is new to a lot of people. So they're doing some great work, and I'm so happy she's here to talk about it.
And it looks like my video camera there, so let's see if we can fix that.
No worries. I can see you. Can you see me?
Hi, thank you for having me.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. So we can hop right into some questions if you feel okay.
Yeah, ready.
Awesome. So before all of this, what was We Are Teachers normally doing business-wise?
Yes, so We Are Teachers. We are an agency and media brand. So we work with customers that want to expose their brand into schools. And so a lot of things that we were doing were really connecting brands to kind of the school calendar and what was going on in schools at the time, and making their products or service or causes relevant to the school market at that time. And that all shifted because their schools closed, and the school calendar became very different when school became at home. So big shift overnight when everybody was schooling at home.
Absolutely. So what was the decision-making process like for kind of changing up the business?
Yeah, we pivoted quickly. The working style was great because we're already a remote team that's across the U.S. So there was just a couple of people that were used to working in an office that we had to send home when buildings closed. And the immediate thing we did is we got our creative director, our editorial director, and our program managers together, and we pulled everything that was planning to launch and market kind of over the next 90 days and just paused it. And we went through kind of each communication strategy for each program, and figured out how to tweak it to make it relevant, to make sure we weren't tone deaf, that we weren't talking about schools, but instead we're talking about learning at home. So there's a lot of content switching and just kind of vocabulary on how we are relevant to the current situation that everybody is in with educating at home. Some of the customers that we were working with, we had to pause their program because it's just a classroom or school site solution, that can't be done virtually. So we just paused those, and I think that the key is being super flexible, as a company, to all your customers, your readers, et cetera, to adapt to the situation and still be relevant to them and their services.
Absolutely. And it sounds like you guys were honestly just a really great team kind of making that happen. As far as the pivot that you guys made, are there any successes that you've seen from that you think you're just going to keep rolling with in the future?
I think that what was interesting is that we really, I think, in working with the customers and the clients and the programs, there was just this kind of leaning and trust. We're in such an unknown period. And I think that really talking through, before, when you're working with clients, they're thinking about, their product launch and when they want to hit the market and all of the things that are kind of, company product centric. At this point, you really had to know your users, right? And how they were going to consume these messages and use what you were offering in this new way. So I think that it gives us more leverage to put the customer first, customer messaging first, and be a little bit less product centric and have that, validity with customers when you're talking about that.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense to me. Um, it looks like I have one more question for you. If there's anybody who has a question in the chat for We Are Teachers, let me know. Michelle will get it to me. But for anyone who's in sort of a similar spot as you in a similar business, do you have any recommendations or just kind of like what's the first step if they're looking to make a pivot in their business?
Yeah, I think the first thing is just, it's not business as usual,
Right.
and to being, super flexible and adapting to the environment, and that's both internally and externally. So really taking care of your team members. It's people aren't used to working with their significant others in the same house and having children schooling, in the room next door. And so, there might need to be some modifications there. And then just taking a look, like obviously, many live conferences weren't happening, right? So you see a lot of digital media is big right now, and lots of innovation happening so quickly. It's very exciting. So just coming up with ways to, serve your readership and your target audience in ways in this environment, and being able to make those pivots very quickly.
Absolutely. Being sensitive to your customers and to your people and your staff. That makes so much sense. It looks like we do have one question from the chat for you. This question is from Robert, and he wants to know if you can give a specific example of what the end user is getting now.
So, so one of the things that we pivoted and put together really quickly, we have a lot of media on the topic of education on weareteachers.com, but we quickly built a microsite called Learning at Home because that's what was happening. And we sent out we, put all of the learning at home resources that our editors can find, and did a call out to companies that were giving free resources to families and educators that could be online, done virtually, that they could be included in our learning at home microsite. So that was something new. We went through kind of a lot of existing content and just kind of changed language for classroom use to home use. And now we're thinking about when, we go back to a environment where we can be face-to-face and students can be, in buildings, how that can again be leveraged for, over summer students who, may need to work at home, because of health issues, et cetera.
Absolutely.
I think that there'll be many purposes for this type of content in the future.
Yeah, I mean, that makes so much sense. And I'm hoping that it builds kind of like a more inclusive, more diverse for all businesses as they come out on the other side of this.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being here, Donine. I'm sorry, am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Donine, that's fine,
Donine.
yes.
Perfect. Sorry, I didn't want to get that wrong on camera. Thank you so much for being here, Donine. We
Thank
super
you.
appreciate your time. If you guys want to learn more about We Are Teachers, you can check that out at weareteachers.com. All right, next up, we have Philip Horde from Horderly. Horderly is an organizing company, and before this, you guys were doing in-house, in-home organizing, correct?
Yep, exactly. Go into homes and help them get their kitchens, pantries, and closets all in order.
I could certainly use that. How are things working now?
Well, we're not in homes, that's for sure. That was the biggest change for us, and pretty traumatic. We have about 30 employees, and we work in 7 different states. So going from, casually a ton of billable hours and our organizers working full-time in people's homes, to not being able to go into clients' homes and it being an hourly function and an hourly service where we charge by the hour and we pay by the hour. It was
Right.
really devastating that when the government said no more in home, and just before that even happened, it was the health of our clients and employees was at risk. So we started pulling back and doing certain protocols, to be extra safe. But then even that, every day things changed, and then all of a sudden we had to, pivot, make a big shift
Right.
in our business.
Absolutely. What was the decision-making process like for making a pivot? Because you pivoted to doing like online consultations, correct?
Yeah. So a decision was really quick, and it happened before we all in-home organizing was canceled, and before
Got
we
it.
shut that down. Just because we saw what was happening and trending, and there was scare of once China fully shut down, Italy fully shut down, it's coming to the west coast of America. So we kind of figured we're in New York City, the biggest hub of people right now, so in America at least, and we decided to pivot to virtual organizing, and it's more like coaching and consulting. So if you've ever seen like the Marie Kondo Netflix show where she comes and kind of coaches, then leaves and comes back a month later, that's like what virtual organizing is. And
Got it.
it makes sense, and it's great for us because now we can reach a much broader audience, and we're working worldwide instead of just in the 7 states that we actually have physical organizing. So it was a
Oh,
pivot
wow.
that needed to be made, but kind of pushed us over the edge to expedite it.
Absolutely. So it sounds like this is something that you're probably going to continue doing even after the stay-at-home orders are lifted.
Yeah, I mean, if you can be optimistic in this time and see something at the end of the tunnel that is gonna brighten your day, this has forced us to create an entire additional service to our company. So if we can thrive and create it and expedite making it a solid service, the right price, the right amount of protocols, and having the right effect on clients during these however many months, then when we come out of this, we have a worldwide audience and clientele that we never had before. We have a service that when our California team has a recession, but our New York team doesn't, well, we can virtually organize from anywhere. So now our team that has less hours are going to get more virtual sessions because you can do it from
Absolutely.
home. And so it's just going to make our company, more helpful towards our audience and clients moving forward.
That's spectacular. And when you talk about taking lemons and making lemonade, I think that's like the definition of that.
Yeah, it's
Um,
switching and making big service adjustments in your company during times like this. It can only boost the morale from your team because this is a worldwide pandemic, and it's affecting everyone, and especially small businesses. So if you can, make your team smile and look forward to something, I think that's really helpful.
yeah. If anyone in our audience has questions for Philip, you can throw those in the chat. Michelle will get them to me. But we do have one more question for you, and it's for anyone in a business that might be kind of similar to yours, that is now having to transition online. Do you have any steps or recommendations you could make to them?
Yeah, well, I have 2 recommendations just for small business owners or people with small business or as an entrepreneur. We're like busybody people. First off, something like this happens, a recession, take a breath, read a book, relax, like
Oh,
hang
yeah.
out with your family. That's step 1 because people are freaking out like, I'm not making a bunch of money right now. It's like, that's all right. Survive. You're going to get through this. We're all going to get through this. That's step 1, which has no action
100%.
item. Step 2 would be move social, go virtual. Like even if you have a small following on Instagram, focus on putting out content. There's 3 different tiers of people. You might have 3 different tiers of clients or customers purchasing what you need. That a very large audience is the free clientele. If you help the free clientele, the people with little money and more money to help support your business in the future will come along. But why don't you build up your social media following? All you can do is sit home and make folding videos. If you're professional organizing, put them on YouTube. If you're a contractor and do some DIY videos, like put those out right now. You'll see the return down the road with a new audience and clients that appreciate the free content now.
Absolutely. That is such good advice, and I hope our audience out there will listen to that and take it and run with it. Thank you so much for being here, Philip. I so appreciate your time. If people are looking to find out more about Horderly, horderly.com is the website. All right. So thank you so much, guys, for being here. I know we're running a little behind, but we're gonna keep it moving. Next up, I'm so excited because we have Faye Gershenson. I hope I'm pronouncing her last name correctly, Faye. Faye is a member of our Digital Marketer Lab audience, just like you guys, and she had an amazing pivot with her business. So I'm super excited to hear about it. Thank you for being here, Faye.
Yeah, totally. Woo!
Woo! Can you tell me a little bit more about Happily Ever Laughter and what you do?
Yeah, I am the girl that got to be a fairy princess when she grew up. That's right. I have a
Love
staff of 50 wacky entertainers, and we travel all over California and perform at hundreds of birthday parties and things every week, but not anymore.
You gotta laugh to keep from crying, right? Just a little bit. Just a little bit. So, Happily Ever Laughter was all in person, all children's parties, events before all of this happened. And now, what does your business look like?
Now, well, I don't know because I can't see anyone, but no, now it's unbelievable. We are doing virtual shows with children around the world. We never thought we'd
That's
ever leave
beautiful.
California. Yeah, we're getting bookings every 10 minutes and have ever since we released one video ad. So it's definitely hitting the right tone for people, which I've heard all of you say. And that is number one. Just listen.
Yeah,
Listen to what
that
people
is spectacular. So as far as moving this online, what was your sort of decision-making process like for that?
It was, okay, we gotta figure out how to perform with children, but like bubble space, and then we'll put them on a towel and we'll call it a magic carpet. Oh wait, oh the next day, oh no more parties at all. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? And I like called my co-fairy and said we have to change everything right now, all of it. And
I mean, yeah.
it was a really like an aha moment. There was no like, I'm sure everyone's kind of had the similar thing. It wasn't a subtle thing. It was like, bam, you gotta move now.
You got to do it right this second. So it sounds like it's been really successful for you. Is this like a new opportunity for you? Are you moving to online parties for the future?
Yeah, I'm never gonna kill this. This is awesome. I mean, the cousins and things that never got to see each other, they finally get to party together. It's so awesome.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, I'm stoked, and I'm also excited to fight with workers' comp more to figure out how we can not pay as much since the girls will just be zooming, you know.
Yes, absolutely. So how is that sort of, you mentioned the girls, the other fairies, how has their response been as employees? Is this something that they like doing, or how has that been?
Oh, man. Communicating with people that you cannot see. I don't know how everyone else is doing it, but my company has always been kind of distant. Like the performers are all over California, right? So we have had a really strong Facebook group since the day Facebook came out with groups.
Wow.
You know, we fill it with memes and crazy, silly stuff all the time. So when I had to shift the whole message of like, hey y'all, you're out of work today. Oh, weird. All of a sudden, you have work again. But you know, we have to subtly roll this out. So some people are still at home wondering why they don't have shows. Like it's anyway.
Right.
That's my own thing,
But it's difficult, and as a business owner, it's one of those things where it's like where everyone's experiencing this for the first time. We're all in this boat, just experiencing all of this at once, which makes things difficult. But I'm sure there's business owners out here that appreciate hearing that even with the success you're having, there's still some struggles there. So I super appreciate that. If anyone has any questions for Faye, throw those in the chat. But we do have one more question for you, which is for someone who also has a business that was fully person-to-person interaction before this. Do you have any suggestions that you would give them for discovering an online opportunity or moving their business online?
You know how you've probably seen somebody else in your industry attempting it, oh, maybe you're too late or something, or you can't do it as great as they can.
Mm-hmm.
Don't listen to that. Just be prepared to work your tail off, harder than you've ever worked before, and you will totally be fine. You'll be fine. It's incredible. Everyone in my industry is doing this. Not one of them is getting any bookings. So it's all about messaging.
Absolutely. Well, that's all we have, Faye. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for bringing your digital marketer experience. If you want to reach Faye, she is in our Engage Facebook group, so you can talk to her directly there. And if you want to learn more about Happily Ever Laughter, the website is happilyeverlaughter.com. And next up, we have Patrick McCarthy. Patrick McCarthy is the owner of Innisfree Irish Dance. That's an Austin-based dance studio. And we're super excited to have him here to talk about his experience. He's had to deal with St. Patrick's Day getting canceled, which is a huge thing for the Irish dance community. So I'm excited to hear some of the pivots he'd made in his business as well. We're going to give him 1 second. It looks like he might need some tech help. Patrick, can you hear me?
I
There
can.
you are.
Hello.
Hello there. How's it going?
Yeah, good. Oh, I've gone again.
Good. Well, good thing I can still hear you.
Yeah, I'm here. I think I'll pop back up.
No worries. Well, while that's happening, can you tell me a little bit more about the Innisfree Irish Dance in your dance studio?
Yeah, so we predominantly just teach Irish dancing. That's kind of our thing. We're not like those regular dance studios that do ballet and tap and stuff like that. So we're kind of a niche market. On our day-to-day, we are in studio teaching kids ranging from 4 years of age up to adults. So I teach in Austin, Texas, and San Antonio, and over the space of a week, I probably see 200 children.
Oh,
And that's
wow.
doing groups and doing private lessons and teen dancing, lots of different things.
Absolutely. So as soon as the pandemic hit, it kind of meant that St. Patrick's Day, which I'm sure is a pretty big event that you guys are normally doing things for, was canceled. How did that kind of go? How did you guys handle that?
Well, we do a lot of city contracted work for St. Patrick's Day parades, lots of retirement facilities, and they were one of the first kind of groups to kind of cancel everything. I'm a physical therapist by trade too, so I work in some of those settings. So it was tough. It was tough because it's one of the busiest time for the kids. We train a lot of performance time up to that point of the year, and it was kind of quite
Absolutely.
quick that everything cancelled. So just for
Mhm.
morale for the kids and stuff like that, it was tough for them not to be able to do any of their performances and have everything closed down at the same time.
Absolutely. What is business looking like now? What are your plans for the near future?
So we've gone predominant, like we've pretty much done everything online now. So different platforms for doing classes online, doing private lessons online. We have a bit of an issue with it. We obviously need to use the cameras, but we're using music too. So one of the biggest things in dancing is timing. So it's hard to have that perfect connection between the time and the music and
Absolutely.
the time and what you're getting across line. So we're just doing as best we can. The kids are getting, one of the things we did was have them video all of their material and send them to us, and we just sit down and write notes about them. So we're not having to do a two-way conversation back and forth and that mess with the
Right.
time and everything. But we also do Zoom classes too. So it's worked good, and there are some definite benefits of doing it online.
Absolutely. And I didn't even think about the unique challenge that is of trying to queue up music and a live stream video at the same time. A lot
Yeah,
of
and then
people
there's
are
also
switching to,
the scene on top of that, because you have to have enough space to dance, and a lot of these kids have maybe, I don't know, live in apartments or have a garage, but it's filled with like
right.
all different types of junk. So
Absolutely. Well, as far as moving to video lessons and kind of moving your business that direction, do you see bringing any of the new things that you're doing into your business for the future? Has any of it been so successful that you're going to kind of keep up with it?
So at first, I thought it was going to be a total nightmare doing this, and I thought the parents. What we really did try to implement at first was to go above what we would normally do in classes. So our classes are Mondays and Wednesdays, and we knew that like parents were being furloughed and parents were having to work from home, so they were going to have their kids at home with them all day, and they're having to do
Right.
schoolwork, and then the parents had to do their work, and then the parents had to try to do dance stuff on top. So we give them lots of fun things that they could do, all the different levels, and give them like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday work that they could just spread it out. The parents knew that if they had conference calls, they could give their kids this to watch on the iPad and then go learn on their own. So I think we kind of just inundated them with more than they would be used to, just to kind of help out, because we understood that everyone's kind of in a tough position with this. And then with the furloughed people, we also told them, if you can't afford this, send your kids to these classes anyway, and it'll all come out in the wash in the end, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the Zoom classes are good. One of the really good things is using like getting their parents to video them, send them in, and get us giving them written notes, because they can then pop them up on their wall, read the written notes before they start, and they're getting that visual feedback straight away before they start.
Absolutely. So I have one last question for you. For anyone out there who has a business, and I know there's some members of our audience that have, things like karate studios, dance studios, in-person businesses like that. Do you have any suggestions to them about how to implement this kind of video lessons in their work?
Well, my biggest piece of advice would be to ask other people for advice that are doing this. I think in this time, everyone understands that we're all under a lot of pressure. Things are not going well for lots of businesses. And I've had friends that have reached out to me and asked what we're doing, and I'm happy to help them. It's, we realize it's everyone's livelihoods, and people are having to pay bills for their families. So I think there's a lot of goodwill out there to help people. So ask for advice, look for resources. There's plenty of resources popping up everywhere. We have an Irish dancing resource with 600 teachers on it, all giving different ideas. And then the last thing is you just have to adapt to it. That's all there is. We're all in the same boat. Everyone understands. You're not going out and just changing your business totally, and people are wondering why you're doing it. They know that you're doing it and you're trying to do it best for your business, best for your customers, and they'll be responsive to that, and they'll appreciate it when it all comes back to normal.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here, Patrick. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
And if you're looking for more information about Innisfree Irish Dance, you can find Patrick's studio at irishdanceaustin.com. Next up, we have Candace Went from Foodhead Catering and Sandwiches. Candace's business has been actually working with the city of Austin to provide care meals to young students and their families in Austin. So she's doing great things with her business, and I'm super excited for her to tell you guys about it. So let's see here if we can pull Candace in.
There we go.
There we go. How's it going, Candace?
It's going great. How are you today, Maya?
Doing good, doing good. So just to hop right in here, can you tell me what Foodhead Catering Service would normally be doing if there were no pandemic? What would business look like?
Okay, so we are a cafe and a catering service. So we have a cafe close to UT campus, and probably our catering is 50% of what we do, though. And one of our biggest customers is University of Texas, and so when and all their different departments, and so when they went down, we kind of went down and started to have to reinvent what we do and how we do it.
Absolutely.
We did do some online ordering already, but we have expanded that. We've also started some, honestly, our community has been what's kept us going and actually kept us reinventing ourselves. We do this one thing called Lunch Bunch, and it was a friend of mine. And at the beginning of this, I felt like I was being told, listen to people's ideas. You don't have to do them, but listen and keep an open mind. And she came to me and said, what if we just started doing this lunch group in our neighborhoods, and people can post it on Nextdoor, and you can have like a point person as a host, and we pick up food at their houses. And I was like, oh, okay, let's figure it out. Well, the first week we did it, it was like, I think close to $2,000 worth of business.
Oh,
Just
wow.
on that one day, and for that one group. And so we've been doing that weekly ever since, and just the response of people wanting to help small business. And from that, it's inspired us to want to keep busy, but also help others. So the Texas Restaurant Association has a program that you were referring to that is the comfort care packages, and those are also part of the Texas network of family and youth success programs. And so basically what they're doing, and not just us, many restaurants are doing this, they are connecting with families that have children at risk and that need help. And so in turn, the restaurants are also are providing meals for them, and the restaurants get to work, and we also get to provide a nice meal for these families. Plus, we also add like paper goods or something that might be helpful for them, because they right now you can't get toilet paper, you can't get some paper towels, so that is helpful.
Right, that's spectacular. What was the decision-making process like for some of these pivots that you've had to make? You mentioned listening and listening to other people's ideas, even if you don't do them, but what was your process like for deciding, what to just listen to and what to do?
Well, basically you had to do something, right? And you needed to do it quickly, and things were changing drastically, or every day rather. And you were like, okay, so this is what's safe for our community and for our employees. So how do we change this? How do we implement this? How do we keep our community but distance ourselves in the way that we've been asked to do? So implementing online ordering, curbside, which we do, still keeps us working, keeps us seeing our customers, and also just the connection, of being able to do that. But and the other programs we're also doing some things with feeding healthcare workers, and that's another way we're keeping involved in our community. I think the biggest thing, and I know I keep on talking about this, is just the opportunity that we've had to be involved just beyond ourselves. And if we didn't do that, I honestly think that if I couldn't focus outwardly, that just focusing inwardly would make me crazy. Uh-oh, I've lost you.
There we go. Sorry, dog's barking in the background. That is a really good point that, is we're all stuck here. You might as well kind of look outwardly and see what you can do for your community and help your business at the same time if you can. Have you seen any specific successes that you think you're going to continue on in your business, even after we can kind of start meeting in person again?
I think so. I think we've always wanted, it's two things. We've always wanted to do things where we gave back a little bit more, and always have tried to figure out how that was going to work. And I think that we'll probably implement more of those programs, because I think not only, I think it brings your community together because you have a purpose. The other thing is we were doing that lunch bunch, and what right now we're trying to do is come up with some more family meals and like hot entree kind of things that'll be, cold when it gets to your house, but you'll heat them up. So that might be something that we can still keep those lunch bunches going, because people will have evening meals. They won't really have the daytime that they would use it, but they would have them delivered to their home, and they'd be in an insulated bag and waiting for them as a convenience type food, but a healthy one.
Absolutely. One last question here for you, unless someone in the chat has one, we'll slip it in. But this is the last question for me. What are some steps or maybe suggestions you could recommend to people in a similar spot or a similar industry that are looking to find new avenues for their business?
Like I said before, listen, flexible, being flexible. You know, one day something right now, one day something works. The next day it doesn't seem to work. So being flexible with your plans and go and realizing that you might have to change weekly, daily, monthly, what you're doing, but we are going to make it through this, and it's going to be okay. And just rely upon your community, your social media community, but more importantly, like your personal community. Reach out to them, let them know what's going on with you. Communication is huge, and
Absolutely.
I think that yeah, I think that those things are a good direction.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here, Candace. If people are looking to find out more about your business and what you do, the website is foodheads.com, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again. Super appreciate your time. Next up here, we have Grace Nicholas from Crux Climbing Center. Crux is a climbing center based in Austin, Texas, and it's an in-person climbing gym where people go to climb. So you can imagine they've had to make a lot of changes considering everything that's going on. So I'm super excited to hear Grace talk about some of the new programs they're instituting and some of the changes that they've made to their business in this time. So let's see if we can get Grace in here. One second. And thanks for being patient to the audience and to our speakers as we work our way through this. 10 people is a lot to handle. So I appreciate you being patient with us and working through it. Let me see here.
It looks like I can't bring Grace up, but we do have our next panelist, Kendall, ready.
No problem.
And Kendall, just let me know if you feel good about me bringing you up right now. Just put it in the chat. All right, she is ready to go. Here we go.
Thanks, Jenna. All right, we'll give. Hi, how's it going?
Hi, Maya, hanging in here. Thank you, Jenna, for getting me on. I am currently have children literally corralled in my house. I've now been booted outside. There's dogs barking, construction. So there's a lot going on.
We're all experiencing the same thing. I just had to mute myself because my dog was growling at someone walking past. So I feel your pain. Thank you so much for being patient with us.
Yeah.
So I am so.
I hope that's okay. That's just, it's 3 o'clock on COVID time, whatever.
It is always okay. 3 o'clock on COVID is the constant state of being. I am so excited to talk to you and about Antonelli's Cheese. Also, so is all of Digital Marketer. We're based in Austin. We know Antonelli's. And if you could just tell our audience a little bit about what you guys normally do.
Sure. We are a cut-to-order cheese shop. We just celebrated our 10th anniversary in February, and I clearly made too many jokes about like, yay, we hit 10, we can retire, because then COVID hit. Now we're like, no, wait, we're not ready to retire. Let's hang on. So what is a cut-to-order cheese shop? It's kind of like an ice cream shop. You can come in, taste everything for free and fun, and then if you like something, we cut it to order, which keeps the cheese better. We support smaller producers from around the United States and globally, and then we, in addition to our cheese shop, which we do cheese and meat and beer and wine and honeys and preserves, we also have an events house across the street where we do about 200 to 300 cheese tasting classes per year in private events.
Oh, wow.
We have a third location, which is our warehouse, and out of there we do we supply artisanal foods to about 150 local restaurants or Central Texas restaurants, and we run our e-commerce out of there as well. So we have 3 physical locations and then sort of 4 revenue lines.
Absolutely. So you mentioned that you have the live events, you have a couple of locations. How is business working now that the stay-at-home order is in place?
Oh my goodness. I mean, I just hearing some of the other speakers, it's like reliving it. And I already have like tried to bury that. But around that March 20th date, everything kind of became real in Austin when South by Southwest was canceled. So for us, when
Right.
canceled, it doesn't bring a lot of traffic to our retail, but it canceled all of our wholesale program. So all of our restaurants, which had us order for them, of course, it was hundreds of thousands of pounds of cheese that was canceled on, and we can't hold them accountable to it. They're in the same boat we are. So we lost half of our business revenue overnight. Quickly had to start making some pivots there. And then we just looked at other areas of, we're in Seattle. We tried to quickly stay ahead of the game and make a lot of quick adjustments before. So one of the things we did strategically is instead of saying what could happen, or let's wait until shelter in place and then we'll put something else, we just said, here's the 5 different zones and levels of what Mayor Adler, our mayor, might declare, and we started moving through those, and then we said, heck with it, let's jump to 5 and already be working through these systems. So before it was ever mandated, we kicked customers out of our shop, we launched online orders, we set up a call center, which we've never done before, which sounds easy and is actually really challenging as a small business, and you have to pay labor for somebody to sit there on a phone and hold it.
Right.
Curbside delivery into trunks really quickly. And then one of our quickest moves was then all of our events got canceled. And I heard some other folks talking about this. So we did tastings where we take 50 people out to a farm, and we couldn't all get on a bus and do that. So we transitioned all of those to virtual tastings right now. And instead they have skyrocketed. They always sold out. And now we have doubled down in retail, and we have doubled down in events. And so both of those programs are doing really well, which is good because it's making up for our huge lost revenues. So in the end, we're saying we're working 4 times as hard for like a quarter of the money. And at the end of the day, we're just hoping we break even, but we've been luckily able to hold on to all of our team.
That's spectacular. And I have to say, the online tastings kind of set this whole call in motion, because one of my teammates did an online tasting and told all of us about it. We all wanted to do one. And so that honestly is what kind of inspired us to kind of look at how businesses are getting creative with how they do things. So I was going to ask if it was successful, but it sounds like yes.
Yeah, I don't know. We've been asked, like, what will we keep after when things go back to normal? Like there's never normal in entrepreneurship.
Right.
I have a guest who might walk in front of the screen. Okay, he has decided not to. Homeschooling is not going well today. We'll never be able to. I guess if I'm looking on the bright side, what has been great is a lot of stuff was in our business plan. Like we eventually wanted to launch Cheesemonger Live. We've had that domain for 5 years, and it's basically where for people who can't access and come into the shop, that they could still experience cheeses the same way. So you call in and visually see the case, and we talk you through the tastes and flavors, and you can select it that way, and we'll still cut it to order. So we just went ahead and launched that. The classes, I don't think we'll ever take back. People now, I guess one of the cool things, sorry, that was distracting.
You're fine.
Out of all of this, I know everybody, my plumbing is out, which is why the plumbers are here. So I just watched my child run into my front lawn and go to the bathroom and one back. And I'm trying, like, oh, they don't need to know, but now you all know. I have no secrets. The amazing thing is our goal has been to spread joy, and it just so happens that we get to do that through cheese. We launched the virtual tastings as a way to just keep that program afloat. We could not afford to give back all that revenue. That was our cash we'd already received. So we went to it because we had to, but now the amazing part is people are saying, like, I have nothing else to do, and I just got to celebrate my 50th wedding anniversary with you guys. So thank you for giving us something to do, and thank you for breaking up the monotony. And so we're getting to still spread joy. And then it's the part I don't think we can ever take back is it's connecting people across the United States. So now this week we shipped out cheese tastings in a box to 20 different locations across the United States, and they're all celebrating the fact that one woman just finished her chemo cancer treatments. And so we're all get on and lead a live tasting for her, but they're all in different places across the United States. So we've just now found a new way to bring it all together. It's just been exhausting, like everybody else said.
That's spectacular, though. You guys are doing amazing. I do have one question from the chat from multiple people who asked, how do you do a virtual tasting? So if you could just break down what that means.
Yes, that is a great question, because we've been doing these Facebook Live events, and I'm like, if you're just tuning in, no, people are not just sitting here watching me eat cheese. So locally in Austin, you buy your ticket, and then you come and you still pick up a cheese plate. And so you pop your trunk. We don't ever touch each other. We put it in the back of your trunk, and you go home and you tune in at a certain time. And we will guide you through the tasting. So we're talking about the makers and how they made it and how it's a labor of love. And our American cheesemakers and all of our artisanal producers are really hurting. It's really commodities that are thriving right now, and we're losing a lot of farms through this. So now telling your story is more important now than ever. So people are getting to taste through it with us, and we're giving them science behind the cheese. We're giving them theories on how to pair, and most importantly, we're just trying to connect with people in these isolating times. So virtual cheese tasting class is that you have a physical plate in front of you, and then you tune in with us, and we're talking you through a tasting. And so now that's why we've launched the 2.0 version where we will ship it to you, and then you can join in on a tasting as well.
Got it. Absolutely. Well, Candace, I'm sorry, not Candace. Candace was before you.
I'll answer to anything.
It's fine. Kendall, we have one last question for you if no one else in the chat has anything to say, but for people that are looking to do a similar pivot, it's the same question we asked everybody. Do you have any suggestions or any advice?
Sure. This is not exactly answering your question, but I'm always off script.
Go for it.
I think any business should be doing right now is I'm trying to intentionally support locally owned businesses. But if you don't have your website updated or your Instagram, or so for instance, on our Instagram, we just changed our profile and it just says open daily 11 to 6, here's how to support us. So right now, I think there's a lot of people out there, there are a lot of people out there who want to support you, but if they don't know how, you just have to make it as easy as possible. So putting that, we created a whole tab on our website that says COVID-19, and on it, it just says how you can support us. And it's literally the information you find anywhere else on the website. It's just bullet by bullet. Buy this box, join this class, order online here. So making it as clear as possible to people, and then staying, I'm so sick of my phone and my computer, and we don't have a fancy marketing company, but I'm staying glued to it and responding to every inquiry and request I have right now. So that's just people want to support you and trying to make sure that your messaging is out there in a way that they know how to support you. I think my biggest advice is giving ourselves a lot of grace. It doesn't have to be perfect. And we are repeating to ourselves this mantra, which we read in a book, The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, who now lives in Austin. Quick, easy read, great business book. But it's progress, not perfection. And so for so long, we had put off a lot of these things because we needed them to be perfect and have the right software and the most high-tech, awesome thing for the cheapest cost. And all that went out the door the day the pandemic hit. And we were like, we need to do it now. And it doesn't matter if we have duct tape it to the door, we're going to figure it out. And because we've stayed true to our voice and our branding, that I don't think has taken a hit for it. So I think it's make it easy for people to support you, give yourself grace, and then it doesn't have to be perfect to go for it, and just celebrate our wins, everybody. Celebrate our wins.
Woo! That is a digital marketer core value. So that is right on brand with us. Kendall, it was a joy talking to you. I had a great time. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, y'all. Way to go, business owners.
For people that are looking to learn more about Antonelli's Cheese Shop and to do a virtual tasting, I'm sure we're all excited to do that now. Antonelli'sCheese.com is the website. So next up, last but not least, is Grace Nicholas from Crux Climbing Center. Grace is in their marketing department, and they have recently implemented some new sort of membership options for how people that can't physically go to their climbing gym can still support them. So I'm super excited to have you here, Grace. Thank you for being patient with us as we kind of work our way through these interviews. Thanks for being here. Oh, there you are. Can you see me or can you hear me?
Hi, I'm not hearing anything.
Oh no.
1 second. I'm not sure.
No worries. We'll give her some time to get that fixed. Let's see. Jenna might be sending you a message to see if we can get you up and running.
Let's try that.
Did that help? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Woo!
There we go.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And it's Grace Nichols.
Nicholas, there's an A at the end, but
Okay,
close enough.
we'll fix
It
that.
happened.
So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being patient as we work our way through these interviews. I'm thinking we saved the best for last here. I'm very excited to hear about the things that y'all have going on, especially because I have some coworkers that go to Crux Climbing Center and love it very much. So can you tell us a little bit about what business was like before the pandemic?
Yeah, we are a climbing gym that has a membership monthly subscription, as you would say. We also have like paid in full and day pass drop-ins. We do a kids program. We were in the middle of our spring break camp. We have yoga, fitness, climbing classes, and a retail section. So there's a lot of different like revenue streams for our business.
Got
Yeah.
it. Absolutely. And so now you've kind of pivoted your membership strategy because people can't come to the gym at all. So can you tell me a little bit about what kind of changes you guys have made there?
Yeah, so a lot of gyms have done different versions of opt-in or opt-out. We decided that we're going to freeze everybody, and if they want to opt in, they're allowed to opt in to keep their memberships going, to support us and our staff during this time. In that process, we said for everyone that will opt in to keep a membership, once we're back open, then we will give a membership to somebody in our community that's been affected by this COVID situation.
Absolutely. And what was the decision-making process for that like? How did you guys decide to go with the keep a membership, give a membership?
Yeah, we knew a lot of businesses were hurting, including ourselves, and we're like kind of, but more importantly, like that our community was hurting and how we can help them and support them. The other thought process being that if we return and only some of our membership comes back because they're the ones that could afford it, just seems so sad to us to think like that when we get to come back, not everybody would get to. Like, that's not fair.
Right.
So we were kind of like, look, like, obviously this will help us get the doors back open when we're able to, and then we can also like give that appreciation back, pay it forward.
Absolutely. I absolutely love that. What kind of response have you seen to that from your members?
It's been great. So we kind of launched it like after we decided to do the opt-in section, but we saw pretty much double the amount of people that were opting in opted in after we launched
Oh,
that.
wow.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
so it's a great response.
Absolutely.
Sure.
That's so good to hear. If anyone has any questions for Grace, just a reminder to throw that in the chat for Michelle. But we do have one last question here for you, which is just for anyone that's in a similar business, even if it's specifically like a gym or a personal trainer or something like that, do you have any specific advice for them?
Right now, I think like community engagement is huge. So like we offer our like online yoga and fitness for free. We're just trying to think of different ways to engage people in this time where people are still seeking out fitness. So you're still top of mind, which is nice. Maybe not as top of mind as like, you know, for some reason like restaurants and other businesses, but the fact that people still need fitness is great. And I think like right now, in any business, it's like how you treat your customers, how you treat your staff during this time is going to be like a huge reflection. I think a lot of your customer base will value like how you handle this situation. So
Absolutely. I think you're 100% spot on with that. It doesn't look like we have any questions from the chat. So thank you so much, Grace, for being here. I think you had some excellent advice that people should really take, especially if they're in that sort of industry that's very in person and just kind of getting creative and listening to their customers. I think that's absolutely amazing. If you are in the Austin area and you want to check out Crux Climbing Center, it is cruxclimbingcenter.com, correct?
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much for hanging in here for this office hours / insider training. This has been an absolutely wonderful experience to get to talk to all of these entrepreneurs, sort of making things work for them and taking lemons and making them into lemonade. So thank you to all of our panelists. Thank you to Michelle for being in the chat and keeping things running. Thank you, Jenna, for managing our speakers and keeping things as organized as we could possibly make it. Thank you to our audience for attending, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much. Bye.